Switzerland needs you. Or more precisely, the tiny alpine community of Albinen needs you, badly enough that it's offering £19,000 a head to anyone prepared to move into town and stay there. Its chief attraction is said to be lots of lovely fresh air, and if that sounds suspiciously like admitting it doesn't have all that many attractions, therein perhaps lies the problem. Young people are leaving Albinen, shrinking its population to that of a modest hamlet, and not coming back. And that's a problem not confined to Switzerland. Small towns and villages all over Britain, from the sleepy shires to post-industrial towns, are now struggling to keep their footing in a world where youth, energy and prosperity are draining away to the city. 1 million young people have moved out of small communities over the past 30 years, according to the new think tank Centre for Towns, launched this week by the election analyst Ian Warren, with the help of Labour MP Lisa Nandy, to focus minds on places that all too easily slip between the cracks of public debate: the Merthyr Tydfils and the Skegness's, the Peterboroughs and the Swindons, and all the places that aren't really rural or urban but awkwardly in between. They don't always look as if they're struggling, and contrary to urban myth, not all their residents exhibit a curmudgeonly rage against the modern world. Some are the sort of pretty, sleepy market towns where holidaying Londoners hover wistfully by estate agents' windows every summer, fantasizing about snapping up a family house in Pembrokeshire or the unfashionable bits of Norfolk for the price of a flat at home. But look closer and those high streets are too sleepy by half, bulked out with charity shops and brave stabs at businesses that don't last. Come back in winter, when it's blowing a gale and the seasonal work has evaporated, and it's a different story. These are the rapidly aging towns whose young people leave for university and don't return, except at Christmas when they venture into the pubs they used to drink in, and feel half nostalgic, half uncomfortable. One unforeseen consequence of expanding higher education, with almost half of teenagers now going away to university, is that so many get a taste of city life and never look back. And fair enough, to be frank. It would be wholly wrong to turn back the clock, when for so many of my generation higher education was the making of us. But the greater opportunity seized by some does raise unsettling questions about the impact on those left behind, the kids who couldn't or didn't want to move, and older generations who never had the chance. Tenby Harbour in Pembrokeshire. Londoners hover wistfully by estate agents' windows every summer, fantasizing about snapping up a family house. Photograph ITV. Thanks to their rapidly aging populations, it's small towns that will bear the brunt of rising demand for expensive health and social care, just as they are grappling with the painful consequences of economic change. Their factories are closing, high street shops being replaced by vast warehouses where the only work is picking and packing goods for invisible online customers. All that talk in the budget about investing in driverless cars and tech startups feels as remote as the moon from low-skilled towns where automation is more likely to cost jobs than bring them. The cruel irony of small towns' tendency to support Brexit, meanwhile, is that it may only accelerate their decline. And by the time that becomes painfully obvious, when the jobs disappear overseas and the wage packets shrivel, the populist quacks who peddled Brexit as a miracle cure for whatever ails you will doubtless have long since skipped town, blaming everyone else for their failures. It will be conventional politicians who have to pick up the pieces. While initiatives like Centre for Towns don't have all the answers, at least they are thinking far enough ahead to ask the right questions about what, apart from a sackful of Swiss francs, could make small-town life attractive again. Small towns thrive when people feel genuinely torn between staying or going, because there are advantages to both. It's always involved compromises, occasionally painful ones. Everyone remembers the syrupy ending of It's a Wonderful Life, where a small town rallies round to save its beloved bank, but the film actually begins with thoughts of suicide. Our hero George dreamed of traveling the world, and leaving the dreary family business behind for something new, but his father's death leaves him effectively trapped, forced to step in to save the bank the community relies on. His reward for staying and doing his duty by Bedford Falls is a happy family life and the warm glow of knowing his community cares about him. It's an impossibly romanticized version of what happened to many small-town family businessmen in 1930s America, but then as now the film's popularity suggests people do still long to believe in the fairy tale. The idea of belonging to a cozy, close-knit community where everyone knows your name, even if that means giving up on something more exciting, endures. Some contented small-town dwellers are people who left for the city years ago and surprised even themselves by coming back, either to their hometown or somewhere suspiciously like it, after having kids. Others have struggled for years over whether to stick or twist. But small towns thrive when their occupants feel genuinely torn between staying or going, because there are advantages to both. The problem now is that in too many small towns that choice has come to feel rather like a tug-of-war in which one end let go of the rope. There is precious little comfort to be had in staying, but dwindling opportunities to get out. A few years ago, The Economist caused uproar with an article suggesting some Rust Belt towns, places with stagnating economies and rapidly dwindling populations, were beyond saving and should just be left to peter out, like those eerie California ghost towns abandoned when the gold rush dried up. But that's an inhumane response to communities that have simply found themselves on the wrong side of geography, whose only mistake was to be middling-sized, in an era where successful communities are usually huge global cities or tiny, chocolate box villages, or too far away from bigger cities to attract commuters. Small towns occupy a powerful place in British hearts and imaginations, and they have a right to survive. All they need now is a reason to exist.